without further ado, our featured speaker. He is a 3-time Daytime Emmy winner, a series creator of landmark children's television, reshaping children's television, working with puppeteering. He actually is even a patent holder for something called Shadowmation, which combines live-action puppeteering with virtual sets, which was incredibly forward-thinking and innovative. He's a writer, a director, an author. He's now a Broadway show creator, writing a musical, and he is a true innovator who I've been fortunate enough to get to know, and his name is Mitchell Kriegman. So Mitchell, please. So, if you enjoy the talk, we'll be selling these in the back. They're $9.99. Can take one home with you.
Okay, you guys are very serious. You've completely negated the entire sense of my entire talk. And it's your fault, okay, that you didn't see how absurd that was. And now comes the serious part. Maybe you're going to laugh at that. Maybe that's the way it's going to go today. So I started with that because I thought I would talk about what I was thinking when I made it, which if I had known about today, I might have not made it. I would have been thinking about, oh my God, they're never going to laugh at it. What good is this? So at the time I made it, this is in the 70s or something, I was desperate to create something. That was probably the first video I made. I wanted to be creative. I left my girlfriend, who was the love of my life, and she had no idea why I left her. We had lived in Italy together, so I tried to find myself in New York. I wanted to be a writer, a storyteller, but I had left college where famous writers that I studied with said I had no talent for writing, that I would never be a writer, and put me on academic probation, in fact. I had borrowed one of the earliest video cameras. This was the very first beginning of video. A Sony Portapack and a tripod, and bought a few clamp lights on Canal Street in New York. I was shooting in an empty, cavernous loft on Broome Street before lofts were glamorous. The bathroom was literally in the middle of the loft. It cost $300 a month, which was all I had, and the building was condemned. I figured if I could just spontaneously make up stories to camera, I could be a better writer. I didn't know what video art was, what short videos were, and of course there was no YouTube. I considered myself a very serious person, and I guess I was more serious than I thought. And as I watched this video back, after I shot it, I thought my stories were a bit too stark, which maybe you agree with. It wasn't until I showed my video at a very avant-garde video art venue called the Anthology Film Archives that everybody started laughing. They did. They got it. They started laughing, okay? I'm just saying, don't feel too guilty. But, and that's when I realized I was funny. And laughter was the missing element. Making people laugh is and was and continues to be amazing. Suddenly I was avant-garde. I wasn't a writer enough to please my teachers, but I had harnessed this new technology called video at the time. Okay, so that's what I was thinking when I made that thing. I was desperate to express myself somehow, and I thought, just do the most stark, simple thing of putting a camera up and making up stories, and maybe I'd never convinced the writers that I had been taught by, but I'd know more about storytelling. And then I found something that actually was the prototype for everything I ended up doing. Because if you look at my career of TV series and characters, they all talk to camera, they all talk really seriously, and people laugh at them usually. And they all, have this sort of honesty to camera that is deadpan or lively and fun, but it's the way that my entire career developed. And I found it in that moment. My goal here today is to talk about creativity, how important it is more than ever, and how you can protect yourself if you're a creative person. These days, the big picture right now for everyone, creative or not, in the creative business or not, is being creative is a matter of survival, I believe. We're all so oppressed by the economy, the technological forces of our times, that creativity has become a survival skill. That's really a big thrust of what I want you to think about. And that's for anybody in any business or any art form. It's no longer just, oh, I'm making something that's creative, or I'm being creative. Our jobs, careers, skills, even our image of ourselves are undergoing enormous changes from the outside and often inside a result. Most of it's not positive. These forces are not neutral. They pretend to be anonymous, but they're not, and they're directed at us individually. And the markets, the outlets, the new technology, the irresponsible, uncreative use of AI, the demands on us for conformity, collusion with the forces around us is crushing. AI will turn us all into robots from the inside. The more we rely on it, the less we will think creatively, and the more we will rely on it. But that's another talk. So how we deal with all these forces, how we reconfigure, adjust, capitalize, survive, requires one underlying resource that we all have, our underlying ability to be creative. That's what allows us in the face of change to make decisions, to create new paths, to find new ways to get through things that we may or may not like. Your capacity to understand the dynamics and create new paths is key to your survival. And I think it is a matter of survival these days. People who thought it was a luxury to be creative or indulgent are in a deficit. A lot of people weren't allowed to be creative, or maybe you didn't allow yourself to be creative. But it's something that everybody can learn and everybody can do. So this lecture, though, is about how to protect your creativity. As we all know, everyone in this room, all of us lucky people, are in a creatively satisfying line of work or feel good about ourselves. Because even to be thinking about creativity is already well advanced. So here are my rules for protecting your creativity. So if you're a writer, as a simple example, and I came up with these rules, I had a number of shows where I had teams of writers, and they were always freaked out, and they were always worried. And so I started posting these rules on my door so that instead of them coming in and bothering me, they could just read the damn rules. So we'll start now with this. If I can find my pages. Okay, well, I can just look at this. Rule number 1. This is pretty obvious. I'm going to see if I can get out of your way and not trip over the cord. Don't worry, and if you do, don't tell anybody. Now, this is very important in a group of 11 writers, because if they start worrying, then they all start worrying. One starts worrying, they all start worrying. So you don't want that to go anywhere. And so anytime they came into my office, I'd always say before they left, don't worry, it'll be fine. But if you're worried, don't tell anybody. Okay, let's go to the next one. Inspiration, I truly believe this, is overrated. Don't depend on inspiration. At this college where they flunked me and put me on probation, there was this one great music teacher who taught me one of the best lessons. He taught a course on how to compose music. And he made us all sit there with the staff, in music, and the squiggly line, I don't know, clef sign. And this teacher was completely crazy. His name was Henry Brandt. And he did that kind of music back then even was just dissonant. You never thought of this guy as creating a melody in his life. But he was going to teach us how to write a melody. So this is his way. He says, draw the staff, those lines, draw the clef sign, and then put your pencil at the beginning and put your hand over your eyes and then draw a squiggly line while you're not looking, right? Take your hand off. He says, that's your melody. He says, that's all you need. Now put little dots and make notes and whatever you want all along it and start working on it. The point being that the inspiration comes from your process, from developing something. So just starting is so important. It's what takes everybody me too. I mean, it takes everybody a long time. But if you depend on inspiration, just forget it. It might come, it might not come. It doesn't matter. If you want to be creative and you want to create something, put up a camera and make something up, like I did. And it was really funny when I showed it the first time, but it's okay. Okay, next one. Not great, but better. This is especially good for writers, but it's really your process always. You can't make it great always. Not right away. Increments of better make great. And that's what you're looking for. I'm always happy. I say it to myself so many times a day. I say, oh, that was better. Oh, that's a little bit better. And that's how you get somewhere. I mean, it's simple. It seems so odd. All these things are obvious, right? Okay, I have to give credit to my head writer who was working with me at the time. She reminded me recently, we're writing a musical together. And she said, she's always being slighted by me and by everybody and never getting full credit. She deserves a lot. Her name is Nina Bieber. And we're writing this musical together. And I said, oh yeah, a lot can happen in a day. Well, that was her line. And it's true, because you get this enormous job to do each day, especially if you're creative, because you're all self-imposed about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And there's always more things than you can get done in a day. But a lot can happen in a day. And give it a try. If you don't give it a try, you have no idea. Next. Okay, this is a goofy one. I still think there's a better way to say it. But I feel if you're being creative, then you have the permission and a cloak of protectiveness about you. You're trying to be creative. Everybody else. You know what I'm saying? They don't know. They're not trying to be creative. I can't tell you how many times somebody uncreative gives you a hard time about being creative and saying, oh, well, that didn't work and this didn't work. Well, what are they doing? Are they trying to be creative? No, right? So whether you argue with them or not, and it's probably better not to, there's a cloak of what's the thing that, Harry Potter, the cloak of invisibility, the cloak of creativity. And feel protected by that. Embrace it and feel like, okay, I'm doing a good thing no matter what. I'll get somewhere.
How do you protect yourself?
Me? With the cloak of creativity. I thought that was obvious. I mean, if I have Harry Potter's cape, it's different. Define your own victories. Okay, so this is a thing that happens. This is a big thing. Because, everybody outside is telling you, oh, well, that's good enough, that's not good enough. Oh, that was a substantial, like, for instance, showing that video, which I'll never get over now in the beginning. But, there are all these, decisions about what's important and what's a victory, what's success, right? Forget that. Define your own victories. To me, if I get something finished, that's a victory. And define a lot of victories. I'm telling you, you need a lot of victories. You need to feel good about yourself. It's not easy. They are not going to help you, okay? And so see it as something that you're going to do when you feel you've actually made progress. And that's your victory, your decision that you've made progress. Another one. It's my favorite. So supposedly, two sportsmen said this line. John McEnroe, I know, said it. And there's a hockey player, I forget. Anyway, where you're standing now is not where you're going to be. This is a huge idea. Now, the reason why I know McEnroe said it is that he was describing how you play the net in tennis. And I used to play a lot of tennis, and McEnroe said, wherever you're standing is not where they're going to hit the ball. So where you're standing now is not where you're going to be when you hit the ball. That's huge. Think about that. Whatever you're doing now is not what you're going to be doing to be successful, to be creative, to make money, whatever it is that you're going to do. You know, where you're standing now is not where you're going to be. So you have to think about it in that structure of how you move forward. Next. Okay, this is in case you ever get writer's block. Maybe you're also creative and perfect, you don't worry about it. Or painter's block, or just block in your business, or any kind of endeavor. Because I think this truly applies to all businesses and all endeavors. Because we all, my serious preamble was that we all, especially today, with the forces that are set up against the individual in this world right now, we all have to be creative to cope with it. And that creativity is our core human skill that nobody else gets on this planet. You know, maybe there are dogs and elephants that are smarter than us, and maybe octopuses. But we have this skill, and that's got to be our resource to handle all the things coming at us. So I do have this thought, because sometimes we get blocked. And my opinion about writer's block is that we always have in our mind something greater that we were going to do than what we actually do. It seems very human that you could imagine an amazing novel and find that you were only able to do it up to this point. Because our imagination is unbounded, right? But what we can actually physically do, either for whatever reason, it never quite reaches being unbounded. I mean, I don't think that's possible, right? And so I think that when Tolstoy wrote War and Peace, he had a better novel than War and Peace in mind. That when, you know, people write music, they have a better piece of music that they could have imagined. So I think what happens in writer's block, I mean, I'm sure you can have 1,000 different reasons, but is that thing that we thought we could do gets in the way of the thing we can do. And so we think, what's the point? We can't get there. We're not getting that feeling of that thing that we want to do versus what we can do. So that's the way to get out of that and get around that. So that's my theory. Hopefully it's useful to you at some point. Okay, this is really near and dear to my heart. I think frequently, and it's an amazing exercise, what would your 8-year-old self do? What would they think of what you're doing? Because you're all older than 8 now. But you can remember being 8 and wishing and hoping, and you might do this or you might do that, or you didn't even know what to do, or you were hoping you could just talk and be okay and normal or something like that. And when you think back of what would my 8-year-old self say to me about what I'm doing, he'd be blown away. I mean, I know for a fact my 8-year-old self would say, oh my God, it turned out okay. What a shock. How old are you? You know? So it's an important exercise, not just to encourage yourself and feel better, but because it puts it in perspective. Think about it. It gives you a start point in your life to where you are now that you can think about and get perspective. Getting perspective is very hard to find, right? Okay, the last one. All right, this is really weird how this one came up, because I was giving this speech, because once upon a time there were only 9 rules. And I was giving this speech about the 9 rules for people who hate rules. And I was done already. And then questions started, and it was a lecture hall in UC Santa Barbara where there were 300 people. And way in the back, I couldn't even see the guy. He got up and asked a question, and the question was, well, what if your ideas are bad? And this, like, you can tell, you've listened to me yammer for a little while. You know this is antithetical to any spirit of what I try to do, right, and what I'm doing and how I see things. And, and I had to think about it for a minute, and I'm very proud of myself that I came up with the answer pretty quickly, because it seemed to be really a binary question in a way. Are your ideas bad or not, right? And I decided there are no bad ideas. And if it's your idea, it can't be bad. It cannot be bad. Why would you come up with a bad idea? That makes no sense at all. You're not trying to come up with bad ideas, are you? But even that's sort of an interesting idea if you did, right? So there's really, if it's your idea, there are no bad ideas. But this is what you have to remember. An idea is like a key, okay? And a key has to have a door to open. So your idea may be a great key, but there may not be a door for it to open yet. You may not know how to find that door. You may have to whittle that key to make it fit the door that you want to open. So the key, don't ever give up your keys. I mean, that's insane, right? Don't give up. If you got a key, and I'm saying it's as simple as, I like the color red. I just love the color red. Don't you think you could find some way to create something amazing around the color red? I mean, where do you think ideas come from? Where do you think art comes from? People doing something aesthetically amazing. It has to come from what they like. It has to come to things that are their ideas, that their feelings. So the trick is, A, not to get rid of your keys, keep them, and don't look at them as bad, and no, be patient to find that door. And I'll give you an example. I wrote a novel called Being Audrey Hepburn, and I wanted to do it as a movie. I wanted to do it as a TV series. I tried to do it, 20 years of trying to do it, but I never gave up on it. I couldn't do anything about it for a long time. And then I thought, oh, wait, I see how it's a novel in this way. And I wrote it as a novel. And that's the way this works. So the most important thing is to remember that there are no bad ideas. And there are no bad ideas, especially if it's yours. You know, if anybody says that's a bad idea, tell them they're wrong. Okay? And I think that's all the rules. I just want to say, if you're discouraged, if you're ever discouraged, think about me. Okay? I grew up in a very discouraging environment. I could have been raised by wolves, I like to say, and I would have had more social grace and more hope. Obviously, high school and college were exercises in survival. No one thought I would be a writer. No one thought I had talent. So when I had my first story in the New Yorker, which is a pretty big deal for a writer, they asked me, well, who do you have to thank? I say, I don't have anybody to thank, but I have a lot of people to blame. And I've always thought that movies should roll the credits, but also roll the blames. These are the people that stood in the way of this film. Okay. So the point is, don't be discouraged. It's just, you have to keep on keeping on. There's just no doubt about it. If you ever doubt it, don't. And you know, it's not a feature of being a creative person to get discouraged. It's a condition, okay? It comes with the package when you're trying to create something. They're always telling you to quit and leave. So the conclusion is, don't let anybody discourage you, and if they do, just give me a call. Okay, that's it. That's all, folks.
Thank you.